steaming and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all.
Welcome, friends and neighbors, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. It's show number 425, which is a landmark because Ian apparently has done the math and has discovered that we are...
Now, I went to school in Liberty. That puts us exactly halfway to 500.
Liberty, yeah.
Liberty, Texas.
And they're dismantling the Department of Education. What could go wrong? Welcome to show number 425. We are on location in Kemah, Texas at the Vinyl Draft Social Club. One of our favorite places to do the show, by the way. And it is in part because Doug is here, the proprietor of the establishment.
Well, welcome back. Always enjoy having you guys here.
It's always fun because we get to come in and record the show when the place is actually closed. So we kind of have the run of the place.
Makes me feel kind of like an MVP.
Yeah, it does. It makes us feel very excited. Our special guest on the program today, Mr. Trey Andrews with EP Carrillo Cigars. Trey, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
We are glad to have you. And a former EP Carrillo employee and resident podcrasher extraordinaire, Mr. Allan Denny is here for the show.
Yeah.
But you crashed early before we got started, so you're just like a guest.
Yeah,
so.
There you go.
Hey, but technical difficulties, please stand by.
Exactly. So we are so thrilled to be here. We're going to be talking about EP Carrillo Cigars, which is, something we'd probably be talking about anyway, even if you guys weren't all here and gathered at Vinyl Draft. We're going to be smoking those cigars, and we're going to be trying, I think, some pretty interesting beverages today on the program. From Cerebral Brewing, which you already have to like them because of the name. Cerebral Brewing is a great name. They're out of Denver, Colorado. They got together with a number of other brewers and did a group project, and they just called it Landbier.
Landbier.
Yeah, Landbier. So I went to look up exactly what a Landbier was, and it's actually a style of beer.
Oh.
So I didn't know that. So this is going to be an exciting thing to...
I thought they were riffing on Land Shark.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Or Landman.
Yeah, right, exactly. Which is another great show. We were talking before we started recording
that's
about
a fantastic show.
About shows. That one's fabulous.
Where do you guys have all this time to watch TV?
Yeah, well, I don't watch that much actually.
I travel a lot. I travel with the Fire Stick with all my streaming stuff.
There you go.
When I do, I watch good stuff. So then we'll be tasting, and I'm really excited about this one, from one of our absolute favorite breweries anywhere, Pint Brewing Company out of Magnolia, Texas. We'll be trying their Brewers Select. It's a brand new black IPA.
Oh, okay.
So that should be interesting. Yeah. Black IPAs are
I feel like
becoming
that's becoming a more popular style. I was at Independence Brewing out in Austin yesterday, and they have a black IPA as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the black IPAs have a lot of strong coffee notes. They almost come across more like a stout or a porter in terms of flavor than an IPA.
Very malty.
So, yeah, very malty.
It's almost like saying, how can I make coffee more bitter?
Exactly, and it works.
Put hops in it.
And more fun to drink.
Yeah.
And speaking of stouts, from Fonta, Flora Brewery in Morganton, North Carolina, we'll be trying something called Decoy. And they actually put next to the name Decoy, they put coconut/vanilla.
Huh.
So I'm in already. It's a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout, and we'll be trying that as well on the program today.
Awesome.
Our show beer sponsor is the fine folks out at Lone Pint Brewing in Katy, Texas.
No label.
We're, what did I say?
You said Lone Pint.
Lone Pint.
They're
I'm
also
sorry.
good friends, too.
They are, too.
But we got no label this month.
I get my friends confused, especially when I'm drinking their beers. Gillies, we're having a Gillies, which is one of the no labels.
It's not just for breakfast anymore.
Mm-hmm. And named after, obviously, a Houston star in Houston landmark,
yes.
his bar.
Gillies Bar out in Pasadena, Texas.
If you've ever seen that movie, it was the movie that came out after John Travolta did
Urban Cowboy.
Saturday Night Fever, and then Urban Cowboy came out. And it is, in fact, the last good John Travolta movie ever filmed.
Pulp Fiction.
Oh, come on, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, but that doesn't qualify as a Travolta movie.
What about Look Who's Talking?
Okay, I'll give you the first one. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were.
I got to go get Shorty on this.
Okay.
I mean, get Shorty is.
I guess
shot holes all through your theory.
All right. Well, fair enough. But I'll tell you why I said that, because my wife and I were on Netflix looking for a movie to watch over the weekend, and I was scrolling past things, and I said to her, I said, why is it that whenever I scroll to a John Travolta movie that I don't know anything about, I just keep going? Yeah. So there is that. It's kind of like Nicolas Cage. There's some great stuff in the catalog, but ooh boy, Wicker Man ain't one of them. We'll also be bringing you our most popular segment on the program. It's a little something we call Drinking News.
Oh.
And I see Ian still has the ukulele in the case. So,
I was busy with sound earlier.
Yeah, and smoking cigars.
But here we
and,
go. We're just going to guess that it's in tune. I'm sure that clack came through nicely.
Our Drinking News teaser headline for today's show is... Not bad, not bad. You may never eat egg drop soup again. And we'll get to that in the second hour of the show. That's become the most popular segment on the show, which sets the bar pretty low if you think about it. Yeah, so, but we'll get to that. Excited though to be back at the Final Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas. I was down here in Kemah a weekend ago and was just enjoying spring break in Kemah. Not. But
is that
anyway.
a thing? Spring break?
Yeah, spring break.
Okay.
Apparently it is. Apparently it is. So, but I should have come over here because I think I might have escaped the crowds.
It's quiet over
Yeah,
here.
this is located just off the boardwalk, right where it starts to get quiet. You got a cigar lounge upstairs and a steakhouse downstairs. It's absolutely fantastic.
I always say I'm close enough to the craziness that I'm easy to find, but I'm far enough away from it that it doesn't affect me.
I love it. I love it. And it's a wonderful place. This is an old house. Do you know what year this was built?
It was built in the 1930s originally, but it's a bit of a Frankenstein. It's just been added on to. There's just little sections that have been added on over the years, but it's I mean, and being in a building that's flirting with 100 years old is cool, but there's another side of that coin as well.
Sure, I bet.
But it's a cool spot. I love it here, though.
Is it the actual plaster on the walls?
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm smoking the EP Carrillo Pledge, which is a fabulous cigar, and I have great memories. You know how you have certain cigars that are attached to very specific memories?
Yep.
Whenever I smoke an EP Carrillo Pledge, I think about what I believe was the first time I smoked one, and it was when Ian, you and your wife, my wife and I, Allan, Denny, and his wife all went to see Bill Burr during the pandemic, and we were in this sectioned off area, so we couldn't breathe anybody else's stuff. And Allan brought some pledges. I think that was the first time I smoked it. And standing there laughing at Bill Burr, who's one of the funniest human beings alive, and enjoying that cigar. And they kept bringing these, basically metal pans of beer out to us. It was quite an enjoyable experience. Plus, it was good just to get out of the house because that was in the middle of everybody being locked down. So
they had to be like, we're selling a lot of beer, but especially to that group.
Does everybody have a pledge story? Because I told you my pledge story earlier. It was when my son had just decided he wanted to start getting into cigars. We were in Katy, and I grabbed a pledge, and he grabbed one too. And I said, I said, look, there's a few things here.
He almost killed his son.
So there's some cigars here that have training wheels on them.
Yeah,
so why don't we start
Fisher
there?
Price, my first.
Yeah,
cigar.
there's some EP Carrillos to start with. This is not.
Yeah,
one
that's
of
not
them.
the one. And about 10 minutes in, I kind of, they had a game on, and I glanced over, and he was green. He was absolutely green, and I just reached over and took it. And I said, we're going to just leave that
That's
right there.
enough of that one.
Yeah.
And then when I took him back to his apartment, that we had to do the puke stop on the way.
You got to work up to that.
But you did say that once he showed up for work, he smoked a pledge.
Oh yeah, he worked his way up
was
to
good.
it. Yeah, he did. So
Trey, I always find this to be an interesting question with people who are in the cigar industry, because most people that I know that are like big cigar fans are looking for fuller or at least medium to full, and that seems to be medium to full is kind of like my sweet spot personally. But I certainly didn't start out that way. I constantly read that lighter cigars sell a lot more.
That is true.
Than the pledges and things like that.
That Connecticut Shade is still the #1 style of cigar in the United States.
So does that mean that there are more people buying cigars who are maybe a little earlier in their cigar journey. What is the reason for that, you think?
That's part of it, and also you still have a bunch of the older crowd that still smokes your Monte Cristos and your Romeos, and stuff like that they grew up smoking.
Macanudos and things like that.
And there's actually quite a few brands that are coming out with Connecticut's with some oomph to them.
Right.
Like our New Wave Connecticut, it's almost a medium-bodied cigar.
It's
got a lot of flavor. It's creamy, and it's not like smoking notebook paper like a lot of the older Connecticut's are.
Because I do enjoy a really good creamy cigar. That's a whole thing into itself.
Yeah.
Well, now, when we saw you over at Cigar Town, we got to hang out, and you handed us the Honduras. Mm-hmm. That is not a light cigar.
It is not.
As a matter of fact, Cheryl over there immediately said, "Have you guys eaten?" Yes, we just got done with breakfast. But I will tell you, I haven't had my butt kicked by a cigar in a lot of years, and that one I got about 2/3 of the way in, and I was like, "Whoa, that might be enough."
That cigar, it's our newest cigar. It's in the Essence series, and it's actually made by Plasencia for us. It's their Honduran factory. It is
just huge.
It's like 99% Honduran Plasencia tobacco, and then a little bit of their Nicaraguan in the filler to kind of round it out a little bit. But I love that cigar because it's so different than anything else in my lineup.
Yeah,
and I love it. It definitely has that earthiness that you get from Honduran tobacco.
If this is a tenderloin, that's a porterhouse.
Yes,
it's outrageous.
100%.
And worth a try. But I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I tend to, when I reach into my box to grab a cigar to smoke, that's what I'm smoking more of than just about anything right now.
Nice.
Because it's newer, and just because it's so different. It's just a fantastic cigar.
And it being mostly Honduran too, it's got that you started mentioning that earthy and that nutty kind of stuff that is really indicative of the Honduran tobacco.
And dries your mouth out a little bit. Usually a Honduran tobacco could do that.
As the representative for, a cigar company that has so many great cigars in the line, how often do you go outside of EP Carrillo just for your personal
all
smoking
the time.
and try other things? And is it more for research to know what else is out there? What is your motivation when you pick up a cigar that's not from your own line?
That is definitely part of it. Most reps will tell you that we got into this business because we're cigar nerds and we truly enjoy cigars. I am truly blessed to be able to represent a company that I think everything we make is phenomenal. I've worked for some companies before. That was not the case.
It's not a bad cigar on the line.
I could grab anything out of my box and it's going to be really good. But yes, I do enjoy smoking cigars, and I do want to smoke other things. I want to know what else is out there that that we're going up against in the market.
Theoretically competing against, right?
But at the same time, I like to smoke good cigars. I don't care who makes them.
It's also recommendation too. Like if you don't know what else is out there, someone says, "Hey, I like this particular punch or this particular Romeo or something." You go like, "Well, in that same line, not that it's a similar cigar, but like if you like that, you'll probably like this."
And you won't know that unless you smoke those other cigars.
Right.
And there are some reps out there that I've talked to over the years that they only smoke their own brand.
There are people out there who have one cigar that they smoke,
and that's their cigar.
That's all they ever smoke, and that's bizarre to me. I always want different flavor.
But I think those reps that do that, they're actually not doing themselves any service.
Missing out.
Because for that exact reason, and I don't care if it's a brand, they sell 20 million cigars a year. Somebody may not have ever had it. And if you can't point them to something similar in your line because you don't know, well, then you've lost all credibility with that customer.
If you think about it, we do a show every week. We try to smoke something every week that we can talk about. If we're not smoking on the show, we'll smoke, earlier in the week and then talk about what we got. So we're at what, 425? We smoked 425 in theory different cigars, and there's still so many cigars that we haven't tried.
I have a list in my head. I have like a running list of things that I still want to try. And I just, for the first time last week, I finally got to somebody, actually our new chief of police went to New York, and he got me a box of Chaz Palminteri's Bronx Tail.
Yeah, I've heard about
cigars,
that.
and I had been wanting to try those.
Really good.
What did you think? Was it good?
Oh, yeah, it's a strong cigar, but it's very good.
Really good.
Very good.
Well, I've tried so many different things. There's still so many things that are on my personal cigar bucket list. In fact, I'm excited once we get to Christmas because I'm pretty sure Ian is going to buy me the Rocky Patel $100 cigar, and I've been, as my Christmas gift.
Noted.
So I've been excited.
Start saving
about
now.
that. Yeah,
Subtle,
absolutely right.
very subtle.
Yeah. Terry, how we doing on time? We need to take a break. All right, it's time to wrap up our first segment here. When we come back, we're going to taste the beverage of mystery, talk a little bit about what we're smoking currently, and find out what's been going on with Allan Denny lately. We'll be right back. Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're smoking some of those right now. We're at the at Vinyl Draft in Kemah, Vinyl Draft Social Club, and love this upstairs area that is the smoking
The
area.
ambiance here is so good. Mm-hmm. Like bizarre wood sculptures.
Yeah. And by the way,
a random church warden's pipe.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
liquor stations.
Yeah.
and
Don't
by
forget
the
the
way,
vinyl selection.
I was just about to say,
selection,
a
yes.
vinyl selection to beat the band. I went over there and thought, if I just reach and pull one out, and I bet it's going to be amazing. And I went over, and it was Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. I was so excited.
Don't be that guy. Nobody likes that guy.
I'm just
Yanni's
joking.
greatest hits.
There you go.
I'm just
there
joking.
you go.
No, it's quite a collection. You can find
pretty
something you
amazing,
like in
yeah.
there. And there's a turntable, and do you let customers just put records on?
Some.
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 I love that answer.
Specific customer.
That's a very good answer.
Some can't quite figure it out. I've gone to just drop a record on myself and it's on 45 RPM and I'm like, what in God's name? It's
Hopefully they don't spill red wine from one end of your cigar lounge to the other.
as has happened.
Sounds
As has happened.
like a personal experience.
I was not here, had nothing to do with it. I heard about it a couple of days after it happened.
Everybody within earshot heard about it a couple of days after. I was not a happy camper.
We poured this a little bit earlier, but it's time to do the beverage of mystery, and we have
Oh,
a
my.
beverage of mystery sounder, which none of us here will hear because it'll be put in post. But this is
The beverage of mystery.
I never know if I've left enough time for that. Okay. All right, beverage of mystery is where one of us will bring in a beverage of some type. The only person that knows what it is the person brung it.
Brownish and maybe smells
Yep.
like cola.
Yeah, and it
Yep.
was a little colder earlier when we poured it before the technical problems we had
now
before
it's a
starting the
true
show.
test when
So
it's
now
a little
yeah,
warmer.
right.
It smells like cola and cough drops.
I'm watching facial expressions before I do this.
I'm going to stay with cola and
It
cough
seems
drops.
okay.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
It's definitely not Malort.
Got a
Nothing
grape
else.
smell.
Trey was worried because we talked about
There's
the
a
beverage
little
of mystery before.
grapiness to it.
Yeah,
You know what it tastes like? It tastes like to me when you get the gummy flavored colas, the little cola flavored gummy, the ones that are shaped
yeah.
like a little bottle.
Yeah.
Those, that's what it tastes like.
This
Exactly.
This is not
like that.
bad though.
No,
Interesting. So you like this?
It's drinkable. I'm still waiting to see if it's going to have like a
That's how
bad aftertaste.
that's how low the
not.
bar
No.
is for the beverage of mystery. By the way, drinkable. We go, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That's a
not
winner.
getting the fake sugar aftertaste
Mm-hmm.
that plagues a lot of ready to drinks.
Tastes like real sugar.
Yeah, kind of does. doesn't
It's
it?
way better
So
than
is that
that.
an RTD?
That would be my guess. It's an RTD, maybe a cola RTD of some sort.
Do you have a question for me, Ian?
Is that a beverage of mystery in your pocket, or are you just happy to be here?
Well, as it turns out, I didn't
Both.
put it into my pocket. I set it aside, but both.
Oh, so you are just happy to be here?
Yes, exactly. This is Sweet Justice. It is a cherry cola with 10 milligrams
Cola
of THC.
and
Huh.
cough drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, cola and cough drops, exactly.
Colin, you nailed it.
But it actually
We
kind of
have to
tastes
do
like
a
a cherry.
show with the THC drinks. We have to do a show where that's what we drink the whole time.
Oh, man,
And
I don't
see if-
know.
Not if Dan Patrick has anything to do with it.
Yeah, and see what happens.
Too soon.
Maybe we'll invite him on.
See
Yeah.
what
And
happens
after the
with-
show, he'll be like, yeah, we don't need to ban this stuff.
There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
There you go.
I will say, though, when we've had THC beverages on the show before, and I'm not, I'm not up enough on the whole thing to know if 10 milligrams in a can like that is a lot. I'm assuming it's a decent amount.
It's only one way to find out.
But I've noticed that when we had those on the show before, you have a tendency to catch a buzz a little earlier in the program. So just
Also, we've had some pretty bad tasting ones too.
we have, and there's so many more of them being
It
done
always
right now.
amazes me with the ready to drinks and things like that. Like there's got to be like some sort of boardroom or something where they sit down and they try samples and go, "This is the one."
Yeah.
Right? And how can you arrive at such bad flavors all the time?
Not that this one's like that.
No,
I
this
think
one
one's
actually
pretty
is
good.
drinkable, I think.
And I will say,
This might be one of the better ones we've tried.
one of the most interesting things about this is that can was $7.50.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this one's
That's-
not cheap.
Yeah.
Whereas there were other cans like seltzers and stuff beside it that were in the $2 and $3 range, you know?
That's outrageous.
But I splurged because only the best for you guys.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. But
Directions: best served cold. Well, we missed that one.
yeah,
Start low and sip slow to find your sweet spot.
kind of what I was getting at there.
So,
I don't know what you were. I don't know what that was. I'm unfamiliar with that gesture.
I want to see somebody
was me
do
making
one of
the
the
gesture
old
of,
school beer bongs
shotgun.
filled with that.
Field school beer bong.
Of
course.
be
He
high.
needs a
at
beer
the
bong hat,
height.
right? That has the little
Yeah.
little funnel on top.
Of course, it would cost $80 to fill the beer bong.
That's right. 100%. Well, that's interesting. And I agree with you. It wasn't bad, but I've only had like a little bit, that small cup, and I can feel the effect of that a little bit. And I'm not usually the first one to get a buzz.
It's not those 3 beers before that, right?
No, not that. It has nothing to do with that.
Gotcha. I just wanted to
All
make
right. Speaking of beers, we're going to try one next. We'll be trying the Landbier from Cerebral Brewing Company in our next little segment here.
Landbier.
We are on location at Vinyl Draft Social Club. That was good. Kemah, Texas. EP Carrillo's in the house, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're on location, Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, USA Today, while Ian is pouring some Landbier, which this will be our first time, I think, to try a Landbier, correct?
Yes.
All right. So while he's pouring that, let me give you the 10 best beer cities in the United States according to USA Today. So you can already dismiss it if you want, but we'll see what they say. Number 10 on their list is Denver, Colorado. I would agree that's a pretty good beer city. Number 9, Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not all that familiar with the brewery situation in Charlotte, North Carolina, but they say there are a lot of breweries in and around Charlotte, and the craft beer scene is continually expanding there. So, something to look out for. Now, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I would not have necessarily put high on the list, because when I think of Milwaukee, I think, well, that's where Miller is. You know, Miller High Life, Miller Lite. But apparently there's a pretty good craft brew scene bubbling under in Milwaukee. And St. Louis, by the way, is the same way.
Sure.
You think of St. Louis, you think of Anheuser-Busch, but there's a lot of great craft brewing going on in and around St. Louis. We'll see if they're on the list. Back to North Carolina for Asheville, North Carolina at number 7. Number 6, Portland, Oregon. I'm a little surprised that one's not higher on the list, because
for
Portland is a place
Right.
that's so well known for having innovative
When did this
craft
list come
breweries. This was earlier this year. Number 5, Columbus, Ohio. The beer culture is strong, they say, in Columbus, Ohio. Around 40 breweries in the Columbus area, which I've been to Columbus. It's probably one of the most, the primary industry there is insurance, which tells you a lot about the flavor of the city. I mean, it's a pretty, straight ahead vanilla kind of city. And I don't mean that even disparagingly. It's just not a city with a lot of ethnic flair to it, let's say. It's, as my best friend's wife would describe it, mighty white. But anyway, we'll keep going on the list. That made number 5. Number 4, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Surprises me a little.
Pittsburgh has some really good breweries.
Yeah.
I mean, Mary Monk's.
True.
And,
I hadn't thought of that. You're right.
That's not the name of the brewery. That's the name of one of their beers. I'm blanking on the name of the brewery right now. But They make Merry Monks and Blithering Idiot and a few others that are absolutely outrageously good. Trogs, I think,
Is that out of, yeah.
is at least close to
I think
there.
it
There's,
is,
yeah,
yeah.
there's quite a few out there.
Number 3 on the list, not surprising to me at all, San Diego, California. San Diego is a great beer city, so I'm not disappointed. Stone, of course, got started there. Ballast Point got started there. So, and there's a total proliferation since then of other craft breweries. Number 2 on the list is St. Louis. I mentioned it earlier, and it is on the list. St. Louis housed over 100 breweries prior to Prohibition. And now they've got about 40 breweries, 120 beers being brewed in St. Louis. So that's not to be overshadowed by the big, AB conglomerate there. There's a really good and bustling craft beer scene. Number 1 on this list is Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay, it's hard to argue with that.
It's where Founders is based, and they have a list of more than 80 breweries in the Grand Rapids area, which is not as Grand Rapids is not as big as St. Louis or Pittsburgh. So,
Yeah, not to be terribly home-centric, but I wonder why all these lists skip Houston when you have so many good breweries.
Dallas
Houston,
too. Dallas
skipped
is
Dallas,
fun.
skipped
Houston,
Austin.
yeah. I mean, Rahr and Sons has been in Dallas since they were one of the earlier ones.
Yep.
They're great.
I got a chance to sit next to one of the brewers there at a bar one time. It was a bar at the venue that was hosting a beer festival in Galveston, and I just happened to sit next to the guy and just started talking to him. Loved how into beer he was. It was just his absolute passion. And I've tried everything Rahr and Sons since then that I can get my hands on.
Have you tried this beer?
I have not.
From
This
Cerebral?
is the Landbier, and it's a collaboration, right?
Yes. So yes, there's a few. I don't know what all of these are. It's a group project. It looks like there's 4 beers: Cohesion Brewery, Olfactory. I don't know what HC is, and Cerebral. Time in oak 1 week. Time in stainless 5 weeks. Oak type American oak fooder cask. There's a lot of information on here.
It's really tasty.
Yeah,
It's
it's great.
really
Super
delicious.
It's clean.
Super crisp. Yes,
Saz,
very clean.
Holleratu.
holler at you.
I haven't heard some of these. Mittenfroon and Pearl hops.
I've not heard of Mittenford.
Oh, there it is. In synthesis with Halfway Crooks beer, Cohesion Brewing, Olfactory Brewing. So 3 beers.
Wow.
This is really, really delicious.
It really is good, and I think it's a fairly high ABV for this style of beer as well.
It's not. Its session was 4.9.
Oh, it is a 4.9. Okay, well,
But it is delicious.
I would crush these in the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, way
sure.
interesting. Yes, this would be.
Going back to the list, I had to, now that we have these little $1,000 computers in our pocket, Houston has, it says, over 50 breweries,
right.
and Austin over 60.
Yeah,
How did one of those 2 cities
not make
make
it
the
onto the
list.
list. Yeah, and think about
Houston has breweries that are getting GABF Gold every year.
yeah. It's
Things
just,
like that. Like, I mean, it's crazy.
I don't know. I think there is just I think there's a bias in the beer scene against Texas. I really do. It doesn't exist as much on the whiskey side because Texas distilleries have just Texas has almost
Blown up.
become
Yeah.
the place you think of after Kentucky and Tennessee when it comes to American whiskey.
It makes me wonder if USA Today started calling around to cities going, hey, if you'll give us 50 grand, we're going to put your name on this list.
Pay to play, buddy. Pay to play.
What do you think they are? A leading cigar publication doing their
DFW has nearly 200 breweries.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It really is. And what I love is just kind of actually stumbling into new places you didn't even know they were there, you know?
And there's a lot of these breweries too that they're not even selling outside the brewery other than maybe kegs going to some local bars and stuff. They literally are just a neighborhood brewery.
You were mentioning you were at a place like that in Austin last weekend.
Well, I was at Independence Brewery, and you can buy Independence around here, but I was talking to a guy who works at a brewery, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but I'll get that information because we need to do a road trip. But his brewery is like that. It's a neighborhood brewery. They don't have a canning machine. They don't bother with it. They have brews at the brewery, and then they sell to some local bars and restaurants, and that's that's just where they're at, and that's okay. You don't have to be a world famous brewery. You just make good beer.
Well, one of the things that obviously there's been a cooling in the craft beer sector.
It has slowed down.
It has slowed down, but at the same time, there's still new breweries opening all the time, and it's interesting to me. I think one of the reasons for a slowdown is whenever a sector of anything gets really hot, people jump into it, and not everybody that jumps into it has got the world's most solid business plan, and they may overspend, overinvest in what they're doing, and not wind up with the capital to keep operating.
Also, that means maybe Truly will go out of business.
Yeah, maybe.
The number one selling spirit in the United States.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be.
It's just amazing, really, when you think of how well that whole segment, the whole seltzer segment, has
Exploded.
done. And I'm not sure what the reason.
Well,
for
the
that
younger
is.
crowd, they're starting to drink vodka and stuff like that instead of craft beer and bourbons, and so all of a sudden, these Trulies and White Claws came out, and it gives them that same kind of feel,
Right.
You don't have to worry too much about taste.
Right.
But-
They're just trying to get hammered.
But see, I was there because I'm old. I was there for the Zima craze.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
And I remember I was in radio at the time, did a regular Saturday night club promotion. We'd be down at I was in St. Louis, we'd be down at one of the bars down by the river, and the place would be packed and everybody would be dancing. And in a space of just a couple of weeks, it went from seeing everybody having a cocktail glass or a beer in their hand to everybody holding one of those Zima bottles. And then almost as quickly, it disappeared. And
Well, I mean,
I've been
that
kind of
stuff
waiting
was
for that
so
to happen with seltzers.
over-carbonated. I mean, it was hard to drink.
But a lot of the seltzers are just like that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's true.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
but they've got flavor in them, whereas with the Zimas, they had to add flavor themselves.
Yeah.
Zima was like a,
You had to
and the
add-
flavor they
you had
added
to
was
add your,
Fresca.
Jolly
what do you call it?
Ranchers.
Jolly Ranchers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Used to put
Yeah.
the cinnamon Jolly Rancher in there.
Yeah.
see, that's you're bringing back some memories, some of which I don't want to relive, but things are.
Some of them I don't remember.
There's that. But I think you back to the number of breweries. Did you say 200 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
That's crazy.
Wow. You could go to like a different brewery every week. It would take you years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Dallas-Fort Worth area is right with it too, because you have, when you call Dallas-Fort Worth area, I mean, you have how many cities in that
it's
area?
a-
Because
the
you have the
Metroplex
Dallas,
is very large.
obvious, the Dallas and the Fort Worth, but you have Denton, you have all these other.
You got all the mid cities, and yeah.
and then
it's-
and then like some of them are college towns too.
Yeah.
So it's like
But in Dallas, you've got we mentioned Martin House.
Martin House,
Oh
you got
my
Lakewood, you got Petacolas, you got
Lakewood,
New Bellum,
yeah. Right.
and those are some of the heavy hitters.
And here in Houston, I mean, St. Arnold comes to mind as the oldest craft brewery in Texas, but they're
Carbock.
still doing absolutely wonderful beer all the
Yeah.
time. And then you've got the smaller ones that are really coming on, like Great Heights, and there's so many cool. I love, and for some reason I have these brain farts when I try to think of breweries, but the one we had Mr. Duckworth on.
True Anomaly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. What a
there's so
great
many.
brewery.
Yeah, there's so many great breweries.
Where'd we go for your birthday, Ian? That little small.
Oh, that was Under the Radar.
Talk about fantastic.
They were great.
We did my birthday party. Remember Platypus Brewing?
Platypus is great.
Another great brewery. So there's so many of them around, and it does make you think. It is time for a brewery bucket list. I think it really is. And we should definitely take the show on
But
the
I
road.
think
and-
we've also, for
get
the
some of
most
those.
part, we've also got through the point with breweries where the ones that don't make great beer or have very bad business sense are kind of starting to be out of the scene.
I agree.
They are being weeded out slowly.
Being weeded out, little by little. And COVID had a lot to do with that too.
Yep.
Like,
And the same thing happened in cigars. If you remember back in the cigar boom, all these new brands flooded the market. Many of them did not last. The ones that did wound up being better for it
Yeah.
because more people got into it. The appreciation of better cigars, better tobacco really grew inside the whole thing. And
Back then, a lot of these, little fledgling companies were buying seconds from some of the
Yeah.
big guys.
Yeah.
and putting their
And
putting their
putting a
brand
label on
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
and they were buying tobacco from anywhere that
Anywhere
the
they could get it.
Philippines,
Yeah.
Indonesia, they didn't care
Yeah.
where they got it. And it didn't matter what they rolled and what it tasted like. Especially like, what was the name of the cigar shops that were in all the malls? Pipe Pub.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And,
Pipe
and it
Pub, I
didn't
remember
matter.
that.
They had one in Alameda Mall, and you would go in there, and it was limit 2 cigars, and it didn't matter which 2 you were
Limit
buying.
2.
And you could go in today, and there'd be some Fuente, and you'd go in there tomorrow. The Fuente was gone, and it was Fighting Cock.
Right.
Or, it was whatever you could.
I used to have a philosophy that there's no such thing as a bad cigar, only better ones. Oh no, there's
There's
bad
bad
cigars.
cigars.
There's bad cigars.
I made the mistake recently of buying some quote unquote seconds, and they are unsmokable.
Gurkhas?
And so
No, that's their premier ones.
But let me tell you something. I bought recently some Oliva seconds, and they're fantastic.
yeah.
So it's hit or miss, but yeah, there's. I remember I used to buy, and you can still get them, but they've gone up in price so much you might as well just buy the real thing. But Rocky Patel used to have seconds that were fantastic. Yeah, maybe a little discoloration.
That's
here.
funny. These seconds are Rocky Patel's, and they're
Well,
unsmokable.
I haven't bought any Rocky Patel seconds in a long time.
And I'm not saying all of them, and maybe just the ones that we chose.
Yeah.
But
You almost don't
yeah,
have to buy seconds though, because Rocky has 400 different lines of cigars.
He has
and
so many
he puts
cigars
out a
under
new
his
cigar
name.
like every week. I
And
don't know
there's
how he
8
does it.
sizes in each one of those 400 lines.
It's unbelievable. Like, and it's impossible to keep up with all of them. What I wonder is, and this is not a
that Disciple though is a great.
it's not a
cigar.
dig on Rocky because he makes some great cigars, but how do you keep the quality up on that many different cigars? It's one thing if you produce a lot of cigars, but you've got, a core stable of, 12, 15 lines.
Well,
But-
EPC's just come out with, in the last 6 months or 8 months, like 4 new cigars. Is that right?
Yeah, if you include like the Endure, limited production.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and stuff.
Which is because EPC's not always putting out new cigars, but they do have some limited runs. How many cigars are in the core line right now?
4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Gotcha.
Yeah, see that's.
And
that
I
to
will
me
tell
seems like
you,
a
I'm
healthy
never
number,
confused when I buy an EPC. Like I know
Right.
because there's only so many of them. If I
Mm-hmm.
see something new, I always snap it up because I'm going to try it. But like I love the Inch Maduro is such a great cigar. I love
We used to have quite a few more in our portfolio, but once we got number 1 with the pledge, we were having backorder issues. And
Yeah.
so
Right.
to fix that, we slimmed down some of the outliers that weren't selling quite as well. The Dusk, I still
I
hate
like
to this
the
day.
Dusk.
I love the Dusk. Everybody
Oh.
loves
Yeah,
Dusk.
we were before the show. We were.
Yeah.
I still lament the loss of the dusk.
I can remember Stoner came by one day and he was like, "Hey, here's the new price sheet." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And EP Carrillo's price sheet had always been front and back, multiple. At one point, it actually had 3 page. It was 1 page front.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe the stuff that they had eliminated. New Wave Reserva was gone.
We do have to take a break. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show once again is all about craft beer, hand-rolled cigars, and fine
What a
spirits.
segue.
Not necessarily in that
in
order.
that order. The older you get, the more flatulent the brain becomes.
The more flatulent the
Yeah.
brain becomes.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna stay with. So we were talking in the last segment about EP Carrillo Cigars, and of course our guest Trey Andrews is with EP Carrillo. Allan worked for them for some time. You were talking about how when the pledge was the pledge of the encore when they hit number 1 on the year-end cigar list from Cigar Aficionado, how it just changed everything, right?
That was the pledge.
Yeah, that was a pledge.
That was
and
the encore.
For you, it was the encore, right? And that. And I'm smoking a pledge right now. And by the way, this is an amazing cigar.
yeah.
We talked about the chocolate.
Thank you very much.
The deep sort of chocolate flavors, how it leaves a little sort of gritty dark chocolate on the palate. It's really a wonderful, wonderful smoking experience. But when, and we've talked about this on the show before with you, Allan, but I would assume you'd have a similar answer. When you wind up at number one on that year-end list, how does it change your business for the next year?
Changes everything.
Absolutely
we were
changes everything.
joking about it in the beginning. When Encore hit number one, which was our first number one, I didn't get off the couch for 2 weeks. Didn't have to.
So what does that mean? You just were sitting there taking
I'm
orders?
sitting there taking orders all day long, talking to people all day long. People that Trey and I were talking about this too. They're shops that I never could make headway. I couldn't get in. Maybe me and the owner clashed, or they didn't like EP Carrillo. You hit number one,
I can't imagine you clashing
and all
with anyone
those
else.
people are calling immediately. The one I never could get into, except for a very small amount, was Elite, one of the company you were with, and Kent Pennington. And me and Kent clashed heads left and right. His manager at the time, Laura, I loved her. When Encore hit number one, Kent called me, hey, we want, and they were like, nope, if you weren't carrying some of the line, you're not getting Encore. Now that changed, but now that I'm out of the industry, me and Kent were great. I went in there and smoked, and he was just as nice could be. But I think in general, he doesn't like reps. And they,
I don't think he likes people.
yeah.
There's
could
that.
be.
So,
Sometimes people.
But literally, I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks. Didn't have to. I'm sure it was the same way for you with Pledge.
and I would guess that the logic is, if you're the person who orders stock for a cigar store, you know that when something hits number one on a list like that you're going to have people coming in asking for it because they're going to be like,
absolutely.
wow, it was number one and I've never tried it. I got to get that.
Yeah.
It's not so much that it's like, oh, well, it's number one, that's all I'm going to smoke. It's people wanting to try it for the first time.
And not every number one is a great cigar.
Okay.
Not everyone is a
And
great
not every number one's a cigar you can get in America either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can go there, but it does seem to me, and we kid our friend Chris Hart, who's a great
That's the bourbon guy, right?
knowledgeable whiskey and bourbon guy. We tease him because when he comes on the show, he has a tendency to bring really great whiskeys that none of our listeners will ever
no
be
way
able
you
to
can
find
buy 'em. Yeah.
or buy anywhere. And it's kind of like that, I guess. If you think about it, if you hear about something and it's really good, you're like, the way that was described, it sounds like something I would like. I want to try it. And if you can't find it, it's actually a pretty frustrating thing.
Yeah.
So we do try to buy stuff. Now with beers, it's weird because every state's laws are so different.
Yeah.
So we try not to overdo the Texas beers because it's so easy to get because we're here and we are able to find them, and so many of them are really good. But we try to really spread it around because there are some of these beers that are difficult to get in certain places, but in other places they're
Ubiquitous. They're everywhere.
exactly. So we
Well,
try
I mean,
to.
Yingling for the longest time.
Oh yeah.
And the funny thing about Yingling, you know how they got around the TABC laws, Texas alcohol and tobacco laws here, is they just built a brewery in Texas.
Right, and that took care of it.
They were
All
like,
of a
well,
sudden, yeah,
we'll fix that.
yeah.
Yep.
I remember before it was available here, I'd gone to Florida for a trip, and I just filled my trunk.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Filled my trunk with Yingling, and when I got home, I realized I bought all black and tans.
Hey, that's
Which is
okay.
still good,
It's
though.
still
okay.
okay.
That's all
It's
right.
still okay, but I just like, oh.
Well,
The
back
one
in
that
the
I haven't
day-
seen yet that they haven't done here is their straight up porter, and it's outrageously good.
I have bought their porter with Hershey's. though.
Yeah, the Hershey's.
Yeah.
Oh, the diabetes beer.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I remember back in the day in Texas, people would go to Colorado on vacation and come back with a trunk load of Coors.
Well, that's Smokey and the Bandit. That's what the movie's
Yeah.
about.
And,
Yeah.
and now that you can get Coors whenever you want it in Texas,
You don't want it.
Yeah, you don't want it. Yeah, exactly.
My dad went, this would have been in the 90s, late 90s, mid 90s. My dad went to Colorado to visit his sister, and he got to go to the Breckenridge Brewery. He was so excited about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Speaking of breweries, one of our favorites is Lone Pint out of Magnolia, Texas. I wish these guys were
Shout out
distributing
to
their beer
Blake and,
everywhere because their beer is so good.
Travis and
Have
everybody.
you tried this?
It's really good.
It's a black IPA, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm interested in what you think because I know you're not an IPA guy, Allan.
So there's one IPA that I really enjoy, Actually, there's a couple that I've tried. The More Cowbell is the IPA that
That surprises me because that was a serious hop IPA.
This is fantastic.
It really is, isn't it? Coffee notes.
That's really good.
Almost like it's a porter, but it doesn't have that porter.
And
this goes coffee, bitter chocolate, and then hops.
Yeah, and you get the hops, but it dissipates really quickly.
Right.
And
There's a balance to it.
Yeah, you're getting more of that
doesn't-
coffee on the back end.
Yeah.
These guys are so good. We love to tell the story. The first time we had them on the show, they brought everything in growlers, and they were pouring them out. We're tasting them. I was upset because I had become such a fan of Yellow Rose, and they didn't even bring it.
Yeah, the Yellow Rose IPA is definitely
Yeah.
one of the best IPAs on the market.
But they brought all these beers, and they're really good. And we're tasting them, we're enjoying them. And then he pours us this other one, and he and I are both looking at each other like, not so much. Like it wasn't great. And he's asking us what we thought of it, and we're of course trying to be polite. He's a guest on the show, but we also don't want to go, oh yeah, it's great. So we're kind of trying to politely say
doesn't seem quite.
it's not. I don't think it's
not
up
quite
to the
my
standard.
palate.
Yeah, it's not up to the standard of the other ones. And he kind of grins and goes, "Yeah, we didn't like that one either." Like, and
There
so
you go.
Fast.
yeah, right, exactly.
Kind of tying what you were saying a while ago about the certain availabilities of certain beers, and talking about some of the best IPAs out there. If you ever get a chance, it's just outside of Boston, but there's a brewery up there called Trillium,
Yes,
Yep.
and that to me is maybe the best IPAs.
we've had some Trillium beer on the show. It's
They're
been quite a while.
so good.
I was very friendly when I lived in Boston with the people at Harpoon, who make fabulous beer, and they have now expanded and merged with other beer. They're making clown shoes now. Harpoon is making clown shoes. So there's just so much, and I'm a little surprised Boston didn't make that city list, because Boston has got some incredible craft breweries.
And some history with it, too.
And some big, Sam Adams, are you kidding?
Yeah. I mean,
All right.
They
We
didn't
gotta
want to
take a
pay
break.
USA Today's rates.
Yeah, I think you may be right. We will take a break and be back with hour 2 of the show. Drinking News is coming up. Plus, we have some whiskey to taste. I'm very excited about that. That's
Yes.
coming up at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is hour number 2. We are so glad to have you with us. Hello to all of our radio listeners. Thank you guys for tuning in to your station there that carries our show. We are so excited that they do. And if you are in a city where they don't carry our show, we're trying to copy the old "I Want My MTV" campaign. So just call up your local radio station and tell them, "I want my S&T."
Oh, I thought you were going to tell them to move to a city that did.
Yeah, if you call up and tell them, "I want my S&T," they'll tell you what I told every caller when I was a radio DJ. Yeah, I'll try to get that on for you.
yeah, we're on it, dude.
Yeah, it's coming on next.
Yeah, we'll try to get that on for you. All right, so welcome back to the show. We're on location at Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas. Doug, thanks so much for letting us come and hang out here.
Love it. Anytime you guys want to be here.
Always a lot of fun. And Trey Andrews with EP Carrillo is with us, and our good friend Mr. Allan Denny, who is here, I think, because he heard there was going to be bourbon.
Booze.
Yeah.
So I did look. The Old Emmer, it's made by Buffalo Trace. It's there's not a whole lot on it.
Yeah,
obviously,
it's
and
not one of their more well-known
No,
brands.
and it's not a super expensive, but it's a 4-year-old wheated.
And Ian brought this one, and it's a toasted barrel bourbon from Old Emmer out of Buffalo Trace, like you said. But the thing about Buffalo Trace is, I don't know if I've had any of their products that I haven't thought was really good.
It's true.
Whether it's their more expensive stuff or just the standard Buffalo Trace at $30 a bottle. It's almost impossible to beat.
That's my favorite everyday
I mean,
bourbon.
it's so good. It's so good.
So-
But between Buffalo Trace and Weller, those are my 2 absolute go-tos.
And Blanton's was a Buffalo Trace
Yes.
product too, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
it's getting to where you might actually be able to find a bottle of that again. So Alan's shaking his head. Well, not so much.
So
It's still a little hard to find.
some of the stuff they make, and this is their bottom shelf, but I'm telling you, don't sleep on it. Their
Yeah.
benchmark line.
Really?
Benchmark.
Their benchmark-
Now, you have to get the benchmark. There's certain ones.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
not all of them.
Yeah, but they have
Very good.
the benchmark high proof. It's fantastic.
The
It's like
Benchmark bottled and bond is
126 or
badass.
129. The bottled and bond's 100 proof.
Starts off pretty decent.
Yeah.
Well, I've taken a sip,
So-
and I'm all in on Old
My
Emmer.
wife went to her Christmas party, company Christmas party, and they had, apparently when you got in the door, they gave you a ticket that could be for any raffle that they had up there, right? And so one of them was a basket of whiskey. It had 2 whiskeys in it. It had this one and another one, which I'm sure we can bring on a show at some point in time. But so she raffled on it. Apparently not a lot of people did it, and she won it. And she apparently enjoys this because I've had probably about 2 pours out of this.
She's got good taste.
Yeah. That looks like what the rum I brought a few weeks ago looked like at the end of the show.
Yeah, except it was full when we started.
That's right. It sure
We
was.
kicked that rum's butt.
Well, I think this is very good. It's a little comes across a little more higher proof than I was expecting.
You know what this
Got a
tastes
little
like to
zip
me? Old Weller Antique 107.
A little bit, yeah.
And it's
The
about in
cinnamon
the proof
profile's
line,
big.
proof range of what it would be.
The cinnamon profile is real
Yeah.
big. Affectionately known as Old Emmy, our weeded bourbon is fully matured in barrels and toasted, toasted and charred to our exact specifications. Our proprietary mash bill pays homage to Emmer, an ancient wheat strain with a distinctive aroma and taste. That's where that little something comes from, I guess. The toasted barrel adds the richness of toffee and caramelized sugar.
Definitely there.
Yes, along with hints of smoldering oak to the weeded bourbon.
I'm pretty sure all of their barrels are toasted, but I can.
Yes.
I can
So I was up at Buffalo Trace in January, and they were getting ready to bottle a bunch of Angel's Envy. So we had all these, we're just watching the barrels just roll across. 10 years it's been sitting there. And as they're getting ready to dump them all, one of the barrels is completely empty. Just slow leak somewhere, and over 10 years, it just worked its way all the way
happens.
gone.
Well, we talk about Angel share. The
You're right.
Angels all really liked that particular barrel.
The Angels had a party.
That's not the first time I've heard that happened in a distillery, and sometimes it's where the barrel is placed.
Yeah.
And as everybody goes by, they just drop that little brass
The thieves.
cylinder into it, and they grab one.
I can understand that. This is quite delicious.
This is good, yeah.
It's really
What's the price point?
$35.
35.
Well, hold on. That's the regular Old Emmer. So the toasted barrel is probably. I'd
Can't be much
imagine this is
more.
a $50 bottle.
If I remember looking it up, it was $50 to $60 for this one. The other one she got was $100-ish. I don't remember exactly what it is, but we'll bring it on the show at
all
some
right.
point.
Well,
down
that's
there.
fair enough. You want to bring good liquor on
But I
the
did
show?
bring
I'm
this
not
one.
going to stop you.
I did bring this one, and I warned her. I said that's going to be a bottle kill because there's 6 of us
almost
here.
a
Here,
bottle
don't put it
kill.
down then. Let me help you kill it.
It was almost a bottle kill.
Oh,
just
you don't
from
want
our
me to pour it.
Initial.
He's just going to fill a glass.
We'll pass that over there. There you go. Hold on a second. I will also mention. I don't know if any of you are smoking Encore. It looks like most of you have a pledge right now.
I started on
Just
four.
went back
I've got the Encore.
I polished off
Thank you,
my
Oh,
my
Jesus.
pledge and went
much?
to the Encore, and that
Never.
combo right there.
Yes.
Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
That's something special.
For sure.
I'll also tell you the Allegiance would go extremely well with this.
What is Allegiance? What's the difference in the blend between an Allegiance and an Encore or a
So
pledge?
the Allegiance, Ernesto went down to Oliva and blended it using 100% of their Nicaraguan tobacco, and it's still has the Sumatra wrapper like that does, and that's a Nicaraguan Sumatra, but it's a very different
And the way it's aged is
strain,
completely
if you will.
different. Yeah.
And they age the Encores in the Tercios,
Yeah.
which is the old Cuban way of doing it with the
palm
royal
leaves.
palm leaves. So it definitely imparts a different, like a little more of a sweetness to it.
And this wrapper comes from Placencia, and Ernesto has, I don't know for how long, it was a certain number of years. No one
Nobody else
else can have
Wow.
this wrapper.
Interesting. Very. And I guess there's a lot of that type of thing that goes on in the industry, is there not?
And yeah, and from what Ernesto told me, which Lisette hated this, the wrapper deal on this was there's no long contract. There's a handshake between Ernesto and Old Man Placencia.
Wow, that's really interesting.
But a
That
lot of
business
those
has
old
still done
Cuban
that.
guys, that's the way
That's how you do it.
the way it's done.
But yeah, that Allegiance has a little bit of a heavier spice to it than the Encore, and that spice with this,
Yeah.
Now, I was smoking a La Historia the other day.
Good sir.
And how long has that been? Like 10, 12 years?
So it
It's been on the
came out
market?
in 2013.
Okay, so yeah, just a little over 10 years. What I was wondering as I smoked it, because it was absolutely wonderful, and I was trying to figure out, and this is part of the whole process that I don't fully understand. When that first came out, it was blended. I had one, when it was first released. It was wonderful. I've loved it ever since. But tobacco crops and the flavors of the tobacco change from year to year. Maybe one of you guys can actually answer this question. How do the blenders, how do they get back to a consistent flavor like it was when it was first released?
They'll have to tweak the percentages of the tobaccos that they're using, just like a vintner would, just like a chef would.
Sure.
It's called Strange Alien Voodoo.
I think so. Well, and you mentioned vintners. I know, like a bottle of Barefoot Merlot really does taste about the same as a bottle of Barefoot Merlot did a number of years ago. So
Well,
I wonder
yeah,
why.
I mean, but the whole blender has to be like some kind of genius.
Let me just
like what-
the Barefoot thing was a joke, by the way. I do not actually drink Barefoot wine.
Whether it's
That's why maybe you were slumming it. I didn't know.
But whether it's wine in a box or in a little don't they have the little straw things, the little individual boxes like the drink boxes,
Sippy cups.
Like a juice box.
Capri
Yeah.
Sun.
like a juice box style thing. Anyway, they call them individual servings, but whatever. But like whether they're doing that for wine or whether they're doing that for tobacco, I'm utterly fascinated with the fact that they can take those things.
Yeah.
And as well, it's like if you have like a chef with ingredients, you have to figure out if you don't have this ingredient, or your ingredient is different this day, or your peppers are a little hotter than they're normally, or whatever it is, and you still have to blend it to this profile. It's an amazing thought process.
I do find it interesting that because there are certain crops of tobacco that are only 1 year or very small or whatever, that a lot more companies seem to be releasing these, sort of limited release things that are only going to be so many boxes and it's only going to come out one time. And those are fascinating to me in the same way like a barrel pick is fascinating when you're at your favorite place to shop for.
Robert Caldwell made that famous with the lost and found stuff that he started doing 2011, 2012, something
Right
around there. And he was going to Davidoff and all these companies and go up and, there's 10,000 of this cigar. He'd take it home and give it a cool name and put it in a bundle of 10 in a paper bundle.
And when they're gone, they're gone.
Yep,
and
that was
they
it.
are usually 5 to 10 years old at the time.
I thought pretty much all of the Caldwell cigars were limited releases. Are there any like that recur?
Yeah, he's got the Long Live the King and the King is Dead, and there's quite a few of his core line stuff.
Well, at EP Carrillo, you guys are also responsible for the very famous and often imitated Inch series. This is a favorite of Ian's because he talks about the Inch all the time, and it's a nice, fat, short cigar.
Well, the Inch. The whole series is to be the big ring gauge, right? I am not
60 ring gauge, 62, 64, and a 70.
And what's the longest
Right.
one?
The 70 is
70 by 7, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 70
Is it
not
really?
quite.
Wow.
It's like 6 3/4 or
Okay,
something.
so they're not
close
all
enough.
short and
No.
sweet.
No.
Yeah.
If you were measuring it, you'd probably just say 7.
They actually eliminated
I usually do that.
both of my two favorite Inches. The Colorado, which was
So good.
such a good cigar.
Yeah.
And then when the 2020 happened and with Pledge and all, they got rid of Ringmaster.
When
The Ringmaster was definitely.
Yeah, because I remember the first time when I got some, we did a show at Stokes, and that was the first time I gave y'all one. And God, that was such a good cigar.
Great cigar, yeah.
So the cool thing about the Inch line, and the reason he calls it the Inch, is that the 64 ring gauge is literally an inch in diameter.
nice.
But he pioneered the big ring gauges back
Yeah.
when he was at La
Yep.
Gloria Cabana.
Yeah, you still can't get a skinny La Gloria Cabana, I don't think.
Well,
there may be some in the line.
No, and see that's another one that's funny, like the Gloria Cabana Serie R Maduro.
It's a good cigar. The thing about Inch
That's one that's always in my humidor.
was if you pick up a 6x60 Inch and you pick up a 6x60 from a lot of other companies,
The inch is heavier.
the weight is so far out. Like you can do this and squeeze those other because they're just filled with a lot of filler. And a lot of those companies where Ernesto blended the inch to be a big ring gauge cigar, a lot of companies are blending a 5x50 or 5x52 and expanding out.
Kind of
And
fattening
it's,
it out,
yeah, it's
yeah.
not the same
That's
tasting
interesting.
cigar.
So you got a core, and then
Right.
Yeah, most of those other ones are bang for your buck cigars, whereas Ernesto takes the inch line very seriously, and it is an absolute
Yeah.
premium cigar.
And I found out, this is when I was traveling with Ernesto, is I'm smoking an inch, and my only complaint was it's too big for what I want. I'm not a huge ring gauge.
yeah. See, I'm
cigar.
not either. Ian likes them, but I'm not a big ring.
And
gauge guy.
I told Ernesto, man,
Y'all
why
are
don't you
size
do this
queens.
in a 5x50? He's like, no, it sucks. And I was like, how can it's fantastic. So we called Super Dave on the way while we're driving through Kansas or Missouri or something, and we start talking about it. And Dave's like, no, that cigar was he made that in a 5x. It's horrible. Yeah, we wouldn't even sell that cigar.
Wow.
Just the balance completely off. Flavors are not hitting it.
Well, I have to tell you, the flavor. I just want to mention this again because when you get a good pairing, talk about it. This Old Emmer Toasted Barrel and the Encore. This is a wonderful, wonderful pairing.
Absolutely.
People are always asking me for pairing. There's one. Go for it. We got to take a break. We'll be back. There's more whiskey to talk about and more with EP Carrillo when we come back on Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. This is show number 425.
That is,
by the way.
when you do the math, that's exactly halfway to 400, 500. I mean.
To 500, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Don't confuse people
I've been drinking.
by saying, yes, you have. We've been drinking some Old Emmer Toasted Barrel bourbon, and I think we killed the bottle, didn't
Oh,
we
yeah,
not?
yeah. I knew that was going to be a bottle kill.
Didn't
So
stand a chance.
All right, so during the break, and I want to share this with the listeners so they can help me hold him accountable. Because the last time I asked Ian to do a song, he came up with this really crappy ripoff of a terrible song by Seals and Crofts called Summer Breeze for the NPD, the
I mean, Summer
Nicaraguan
Breeze,
pepper blast song.
MPB, it's perfect.
No, nothing about that can be described as perfect. Nothing about that song could ever be described as perfect. And I'm talking the original. Anyway, let's get back to what I wanted to talk about. During the break, I challenged Ian to come up with a bottle kill song for us, and I said it just could be easy. It could be the Bottle Kill Blues, and he accepted the challenge. So this is show number 425, and I want to just mark that because we'll see how many shows go by before Ian actually produces.
We're going to have to kill
the
some
Bottle Kill
bottles,
Blues.
though.
Well, that can be
Because I can't
arranged.
play it unless we kill a bottle.
That can be arranged.
You
my
act
friend.
like that's never happened on this
Yeah.
show before.
So, because I knew we were going to kill that bottle, I also brought the Jameson, and we've had this on the show.
I got a feeling we're about to kill the second bottle.
Triple. And, yeah,
Yeah, triple.
it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it is. Although I'm still just like sort of hoarding the last of my.
You know, the only
Last
good
of my
thing
Old
is,
Emmer here.
luckily, Doug's closed on Mondays.
Right.
So he doesn't
Yeah.
have to worry about all the people coming up seeing us passed out in the couches and the chairs.
This pathetic group I'm
Why is
sitting
that
up
guy
here
drooling
with.
on himself?
Yeah.
Mind your business.
He was doing that before he passed
Right?
out. Come on.
I just took my helmet off.
So I wanted to mention this again. We talked about it, I believe, on last week's show or maybe in the week before. But you know, we have on a regular basis kind of dogged on the Conor McGregor whiskey.
What's not to dog on?
The
Proper
proper
12.
number 12
Yeah.
or proper 12.
They fired him.
Yeah, they fired him and then sold the company for millions of dollars. I don't remember the exact number at this
Well,
point.
he
But
sold it to them and
Right.
was working to run. So I think he's still doing okay.
Yeah, I'm sure. What's he
Oh,
going to do for money now?
Connor's not hurting for money. So now
Yeah.
he has taken some of that money and has invested in a new cigar company, which we talked about. So Conor McGregor is going to be releasing a cigar. I believe it's called the spousal abuse cigar. I'm not sure.
Oh man! Oh man!
Allegedly.
That should be what it should be called.
Allegedly.
That would be a perfect
Allegedly.
cigar name. Okay, Connor, you can have that for free.
Knocking out random old men. That could
Yeah.
be one of the lines.
That's right.
What size Conor McGregor cigar are you smoking? Oh, that's the slap you up.
Yeah.
The slap.
Slap you up. Ooh.
Well, to venture over to a good cigar, my God, the ash on this is just look how white that is.
And so you're smoking a pledge.
I've moved over to the pledge. God, what a
Look how
beautiful
white
cigar.
and how firm that is.
Yeah,
That's going to
it's
hold on
just-
for a while.
I mean,
Now you actually smoked your first Encore today.
I started with the Encore
Really?
and then worked my
You had
way
never
up.
had it before.
So, yeah,
And was
I
that your
had not had
first?
that
You've
one.
never
That was
had
my
the
first
Encore?
Encore.
So tell us a little bit about what your impressions were of the Encore.
Considerably more mild than this.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
this
yeah.
was going to be a step up. But it was just one of those. It was one of those that had fallen through the cracks for me. You know, it's like the first Pledge of Allegiance I had Curtis Plummer, shout out to him, gave to me, and I actually was driving over to Lake Charles, and I thought when I get to Lake Charles, I'm going to smoke that cigar. That was going to be the end of my little short road trip, and it was just fantastic. Everything I have had from EP Korea has been
Yeah.
fantastic. This was just one that sort of fell through the cracks for me.
I
really enjoyed
I'll pull
it.
back the curtain a little bit and let you know, the guy is extremely meticulous when it comes to blending cigars, and it can be a huge pain in the ass for us as reps because something's supposed to release at a certain time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
he's
it doesn't.
literally still tweaking it up until the last minute, and it gets pushed back, and
Yeah.
it's painful for that reason.
Sure.
But he's got multiple number ones,
end
number
result.
two. Yeah, like
Yeah.
who the hell am I to complain about that? Like he comes out with bangers. That Encore, 3 years it took
Oh,
him to
yeah.
actually come out with it.
He's the Paul Masson of cigars. So
Yeah.
he'll sell no cigar
Release
before
them
it's
But
back
it's
You got to be a little
the
older
proof is
to
in the
get that
pudding,
one.
though.
Yeah. So he, Ernesto had explained to me one of the things that I'd never heard this before. His stuff is down in the DR. His factory's down in the DR, and they smoke a ton of cigars. And I know you've been down there. You smoke as much as you want while you're down there. But when he's blending a cigar, he smokes it okay. Then he ships them up to Miami because the humidity is different.
Yeah.
The smog is different. Everything's different. So he wants to see what that. And there's been some stuff he's blended, but he got it to the States, and he's like, no, maybe we can use it for Europe or something else. But
Interesting.
it's not a cigar. And he didn't release it.
I'll tell you, when I was repping for the company the first time, he gave me a prototype for what would become the Encore.
Okay.
And it was me, David Lampert, and him in the car. And I told him, I was like, Ernesto, this might be the best cigar I've ever had. Like, this thing is blowing my mind.
Yes.
And Lamp was like, it's really, really good. Nowhere near the blend he released. And I
Wow.
said, what happened?
Interesting.
Crazy.
And he said it didn't age well.
Yeah, he kept aging it, and he couldn't figure it out. And he had this wrapper from Placencia, and it's great tobacco. And then he decided to. It may have been Placencia that told him to do this. I can't remember, but he decided to do the aging the old way, the way the old Cubans
Now,
did.
that was the plan from the get-go.
Yeah.
He almost went away from it because it just wasn't. But
It's-
that year that we tried to release it at PCA, we handed out some samples, and he's like, "Stop! This is not right. This
Wow.
is not what I want."
Yeah.
So interesting. Because
And the funny thing about that is, it's probably a fantastic
Oh, it was
cigar.
fucking great.
Yeah.
well, I was
100%.
just about to say, because so many cigar companies would have said, hey, we got us a good one here. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to take a break. This is your content warning. Drinking news will be in our next segment. We'll be right back with it. It's Smoking and Toast. Welcome back, my friends. It is Smoking and Toasting, show number
I thought you were going to
425.
say, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends.
I have said that before on this program, actually.
Carnival.
We're so glad you could have obliged.
Only,
Come side,
these
come
days,
side.
only a few people get it.
There's
but,
that, yes.
Well, there's
But-
a stack of cigars, and his eyes are just on that. So.
Yeah, well, but I understand that Ariana Grande is going to do a song where she samples that, so then everybody will know.
There you go.
Everybody
That's
will
how.
know.
That's how. It's always interesting to me. Like every time I like check out like a new R&B song, I'm like, oh, that's the total like horns and drum line from a big like '70s R&B song. You know, a big
From Fleetwood Mac.
Right, exactly. It's amazing how much stuff gets recycled and reused. Just recently, I heard the new song. It's Jelly Roll and some other country artist, and they've taken the Take Me Home Country Roads, the John Denver.
Oh, John
song.
Denver,
But
yeah.
Everybody's,
Yeah.
But it's Take Me Home Lonely Road, and it's a whole new song, but
Wow.
it's very familiar.
I watched-
Especially if you've been in a soccer stadium anytime.
I watched "Oh God, You Devil" the other day, or "Oh God" the other
Yeah,
day
yeah,
with John
yeah.
Denver. That was a good John Denver.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time, now that we've given our appropriate honors to Mr. John Denver, It is time to bring you the most popular segment on the program. It's a little thing we like to call Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. By the way, I hope we got his.
Yes,
that
we did. He was born for that.
That was a
great.
really, really good
Wonderful.
one.
And the pause afterwards was not a judgment on you. You just have to have the right
You just have to
comedic
allow,
pause.
You have to allow that to breathe.
Yes.
That's what it is. Drinking News is a segment on the program where we bring you stories, actually real stories from the news. These are not parody stories from The Onion, or they're not from the Weekly World News. These are actual news stories that have been reported somewhere at least.
Does the Weekly World News still exist?
I don't know, but I haven't seen it in a long time, and I used to love
I
it.
haven't seen any stories about Bat Boy in a
Bad
while.
Boy was the greatest. It was the greatest.
I'm
Denny's
too busy
probably
looking
one
up
that-
Florida Man.
Well, our segment here on the program is stories from the news that are sometimes, but not always, about drinking, but that are always best enjoyed if you've been drinking.
Boy, have we.
And Ian has poured me some of the triple from
Yes.
Jameson. I'm
Jameson's
gonna
Triple
take-
Triple. We've had it on the show before. It's real good. And they
Real
just
good.
released it so
Take
you
a-
can buy it at your local now.
Take a quick little sip of that before we get into today's drinking news. One of my favorite things to order is Chinese food. Now, for whatever reason, my family almost never ate Chinese food when I was growing up. For us, adventurous cooking was when Mom would put chopped up hot dog pieces in the hamburger helper. But I still remember the first time I went to a Chinese restaurant with some friends and discovered the wonderful and magical world of Asian cuisine. I mean, come on. Egg rolls, kung pao chicken, beef and broccoli, even egg foo young. I mean,
Yes.
what's not to love,
And
right?
you know what? Special fried rice.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything in it.
And then I was visiting San Francisco for the first time and had dim sum. The first time I'd ever had it.
Yeah.
And it was almost a religious experience.
Almost.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I raised my hands in the air and spoke in tongues when I had my first one of those little dumplings. Just thinking about it now makes me want to, I don't know, to borrow a phrase from my erstwhile co-host, take back stuff I didn't even steal. And then I found out, and this was in the days before Grubhub and Uber Eats, that most Chinese restaurants would deliver. And so needless to say, I've had a lot of meals in my life out of those little white cartons that are shaped like
yeah.
an upside down lantern, right? But I distinctly remember, I want to say starting back in the 80s, that there were, and seemingly out of nowhere, huge concerns about Chinese food that contained MSG. Restaurants would even put right there on their takeout menus. And by the way, those were paper ones. For our younger listeners that only know about ordering on the internet, you would pick out what you want off of the paper, and you would actually call them on the phone. That was a device that people used to use to speak to each other
Yes.
without being in this.
Right.
Never
So I had to punch numbers
Your
in.
phone actually,
Forget
so
it.
for those younger in the audience, your phone actually does that. It's just one of the least used things on your phone.
Just for reference, my kids think that phones are attached to people, as when I was a kid, phones were attached to a building.
A cord?
Remember those super long cords
Yeah.
you could walk around the house?
Yes.
Those were great. Anyway, kids, forget it. You wouldn't understand. But they would put on the front of these paper menus in big bold letters, contains no MSG. As it turns out, we were all caught up, as we often are, in a big bunch of worry over essentially nothing.
Oh, that's weird.
MSG
no way.
stands for Madison Square Garden,
Awesome.
which has nothing to do with fried rice. But MSG also stands for monosodium glutamate, which, surprise, surprise, the FDA and the World Health Organization have done studies that conclude that MSG is, like so many things, not harmful to health when consumed in moderate amounts. Yeah.
That goes against everything we've been taught.
In fact, it's a natural substance that's found in a lot of different foods, such as tomatoes, cheese, and mushrooms, which makes me think of pizza. But that's not important right
So
now.
wait, for everybody who's been avoiding MSG, you've just been avoiding delicious food.
Exactly.
Okay. I just want to make sure I got
Like
that
that
straight.
time they told you eggs were bad?
Oh my God. I can't tell you, like, when eggs were bad for you, that was one of my dad's favoriteest foods in existence. And he was so angry when they came out and said, you know what, eggs aren't bad for you. He was so angry with the world.
Yeah. Well,
Missed out on all the
Because he had just spent a decade and a half avoiding eggs. That was his favorite food ever.
yeah. And by the way, they don't have to tell us they're bad for us now to get us to stop eating them.
We just can't afford them.
We just can't afford them. Exactly. Well, listen, back to Chinese food. There really is no worry about ordering Chinese food, or any other food for that matter, with MSG. What you might want to worry about is the subject of our main story in today's drinking news. It involves a very popular chain of hot pot restaurants in China called Haidilao. Haidilao.
That's easy for you to say.
Haidilao.
I'll take your word for it.
And a particular one of their locations in Shanghai, where two Chinese men.
Chinese man.
See, I like that you made it minor. That sort of fit better. That worked for me.
I just wrote that on the spot, dude.
Two Chinese men. Nicely done.
This show really, really like helps me out with my songwriting.
Good, yeah. And with your
It's
improvisational skills.
It's inspirational, yes.
Two Chinese men in Shanghai decided to add a little
man.
something extra to the broth in the hot pot.
Now in Texas, we call it a little something, something.
Well, apparently MSG was just not enough flavor for these two dudes, so they took matter into their own hands.
I all
so
of
to
a sudden
speak.
know where you're going with this.
A video which has gone wildly viral on the internet shows the two Chinese men, both 17 years old, and I'll just mention, neither one of them were nicknamed Long Duck Dong like in 16 Candles, but it shows the two men urinating into the hot pot. Now, the good news, the two men have been arrested, and Haidilao management is doing the best they can to respond to the situation.
Oh, that's a tough one.
And if you ask me, they're doing a hell of a lot better job than our restaurants here do when there's one of those things. We have a restaurant manager in the house, so we'll call on his expertise. But Haidilao released a statement which said, "We fully understand that the distress caused to our customers by this incident cannot fully be compensated by any means. We are willing to do our utmost to take responsibility." Now, you could hear that coming from, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys or anybody.
Oh, come on, man. You'll never hear that.
But they didn't respond with just words. Restaurant management has reportedly refunded well over 4,000 customers in connection with the incident, which is a big deal
It's
if you
more
think
than
about
words.
it. And it also, of course, makes us wonder here at Drinking News, how many people does one hot pot feed?
Yeah, there were a lot of people that got money back that didn't spend that
And
money.
how much
People
water
eat
did those guys
after?
drink?
There is, by the way, no way to not think about this the next time you're trying to enjoy a nice warm cup of egg drop soup. I feel like those two guys have somehow done this to all of us, right? Even if we weren't there in Shanghai eating something out of
I've
a
had
hot pot.
Malort. I'll just eat that all day long.
But as scary as it might be now to order a hot pot broth at your favorite restaurant, there are many items on Chinese restaurant menus that were already a little frightening just by what they're named, which is why I tend to stick with basic, noodle and rice dishes or beef or chicken or something. But for me, the golden rule of eating at Golden Palace
He said golden rule, golden
is to
palace.
stay away from things that I'm not sure what they are. And so to help you, the listener, and all of you gathered here, I've come up with a handy list, a top 5 list, as it were, to help you discern what might and might not be worth taking a chance on the next time you order from Walk This Way. That's a real place, by the way. Walk This Way. This would be the top 5 actual items on Chinese menus that you might want to think twice about before ordering. All of these are from actual Chinese menus, except for one, which I made up. See if you can guess which one. The top 5 actual dishes from Chinese food menus. Number 5, ants climbing a tree. Apparently, it's crystal noodles with ground pork. Pretty appetizing. Number 4, 5 gang fat intestine. I don't know what a gang is or why there are 5 of them, and I'm not sure I want to. Number 3, Fat Prick King. I actually cheated on that one. It's actually a Thai dish, but you can find that on Thai restaurant menus, wherever you live. Number 2, Fu King with broccoli, which is a pretty weird fetish if you ask me. And the number 1 actual dish from Chinese menus that you might want to think twice about. Number 1, old skin, soft flesh. It's real. They say it's fried egg tofu. I say order at your own risk. And by the way, it's just silent. I've never had it be silent.
I don't know what to say about that.
By the way, the one I made up was number 2, Fu King with broccoli. No judging, please. Reporting live from Shanghai, where if it's all the same to you guys, I think I'll just have a burger. My name is Cruz, and that is your
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers off.
I had a feeling like number
my gator
1
to the
was
vet.
made up because I thought old skin soft flesh was Cruz's nickname.
Yeah.
That's what they call me back in high school.
Hi, I'm Cruz. I'm going to make you feel really good about eating Chinese food, and then I'm going to make you question it again for the
that's
rest of your life.
exactly right.
Oh my God, I'm not gonna
By the way,
Thanks for that. I'll be trying to poke out my mind's eye for the rest of the day.
when I lived in Boston, I lived across the street from a very good Asian restaurant. They had Chinese and Thai dishes, and they had Fat Prick King. And I never tasted it, but I did order it several times just to say it, and then go, no, wait, I changed my mind. I'll have the house fried rice.
It was too great of a name to not be true.
That's right. You had to
You
say
couldn't
it.
make that one up.
You
yeah.
just had to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You imagine Bart Simpson on the phone trying to order.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he went to the Chinese restaurant one time and he thought it would be great, and he ordered squid with extra tentacles, and he went through with it, and then they put it in front of him, and then he turned really green, and Lisa was like,
I love going,
eat that.
Like in Houston here, we have great Thai restaurants.
Yes, we
and
do.
Vietnamese restaurants, and I love it when I'm sitting at one and someone orders fish,
Yeah.
and they have no idea that there's a face looking at you while you're eating
Fish
it.
with full head.
Yeah, I've been to Thailand twice. Thai is my favorite kind of food, and I actually ate
is.
at one last night in Webster that blew my mind.
Which one?
Thai spice,
Nice.
right next to the hotel I'm staying at.
Nice.
Dude, I got their hot and sour soup. It was absolutely incredible. And then pad Thai. I know that's like the General Tso's chicken
Yeah,
of Thai
yeah.
food, but
But a good pad Thai
I
is
always,
awesome.
anytime I go somewhere for the first time, I will always get that because it's hard for you to mess it up. But if it's really good, I'm pretty sure everything else is going to be phenomenal.
One
Yeah.
of the best
No, you're
Thai
right. That's a good way to.
restaurants.
That's a good way to check.
One of the best Thai restaurants in Houston is a mile from here, called Merlion.
Called what?
Merlion.
Merlion. I don't think I've been.
Oh, Merlion on 6th. It's in 6th Street. It's I guess that's actually Seabrook,
That's
isn't
Seabrook,
it?
yeah.
Fantastic. It's not as good as the steaks at Vinyl Draft, the Kemah Steak
nothing
Company.
is.
But, true.
We have to wrap up this segment. We haven't tried our final beer yet, so we will do that in our last segment, which is coming up. We are on location at Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas, in the house with some wonderful cigars from EP Carrillo. We'll be right back.
In the beginning,
Welcome back. What a fun show this has been, at least for us, because we've been smoking and drinking. We are at Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas. Doug, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming.
We really appreciate and enjoy and love being here.
I didn't
And-
even know we were going to be drinking. I saw the name of the podcast. I thought we were actually making toast. Like this is
well,
cool. I like
There's
it.
cinnamon toast downstairs for
In
everybody.
in fairness, the old Emmer was a toasted barrel.
Boom.
Oh,
So,
there it is.
You know, yeah. We like to be able to tie things together.
So this beer
that.
was fighting me.
Yeah, so Ian has gotten, is that a 750 milliliter, I think?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
he handed him-
bomber.
This is a from Fonta, Flora Brewery out of Morganton, North Carolina. This is their coconut/vanilla bourbon barrel-aged Imperial
I'm
Stout.
just going to go on visuals right now, but I love this beer already.
Yeah,
Is that a bottle of beer or a bottle of motor oil?
it really looks like you could
What's the
use it
ABV
for
on that?
lubricant for your engine, for sure.
All right.
Ooh, we'll get to that in a minute.
Well, this is
I'm going to guess 15%.
it's an Imperial Stout. I bet it's close.
Gracias.
I bet it's close. Oh,
I love how Ian's pouring, because it is a large bottle. I love how he's pouring it with a little. He looks like a sommelier
totally
trying
does.
to pour out the very
totally
expensive
does.
wine.
I love that.
Professional.
Well, not a drop of this should be wasted. I have a feeling.
Can't believe it's the first time you've ever done this.
It
Amazing.
is.
His
I'm
skills
brand
are
new.
amazing.
The nose
So-
on this.
Smells incredible.
He will know
I'm
your
gonna say
ways as
12.
if they were his own.
It is a little boozy on the nose,
Yeah, a
isn't
little
it?
bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 12.
Being that it's barrel aged, it's going to take it up there.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Let's see what happens here.
Well, I'll tell you what happens.
That does
I
not-
drink-
Magic happens.
All I'm thinking is bottle kill.
It smells great. Oh my goodness.
It tastes better than it smells.
The coconut.
It does. The
coconut
coconut,
on
the
the back
vanilla,
end of it.
and the chocolate on the
Oh,
on
my
the,
goodness.
like, bottom of the palate. Oh wow!
It's pretty sweet. I feel like
It's
I'm about
very
to lose a toe, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
This
Fixing to
label
look like
looks
Brophy.
a little bit like a
BBG?
clown shoes kind of thing.
Toe and a half.
Yeah. What does it? Can you find the ABV on there, Ian?
A bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout conditioned on house toasted coconut and vanilla, brewed with water from our wells. Let's see. Keep cold. Oh, 14%.
You were
You
closer
said
than I was.
15. You were right on.
Hey,
14%.
Ian, something happened. I guess I've got a hole in the bottom
So
of this.
the problem with some
cup.
of these brews, like the higher the alcohol content, like 14%, the evaporative qualities
Yeah, it seemed to be.
You
are
should keep having him pour before he can try it himself.
right?
are higher because like it evaporates so fast because of the higher alcohol content. Jesus Christ!
I've noticed.
you almost complain.
I've noticed that there's a scientific
I'll play.
phenomena at play here. That you mentioned evaporation of higher alcohol content. Apparently, the closer it is to you, the faster the evaporation is.
That's a bit of an anomaly.
They had to somehow figure that into the scientific.
I was at Independence Brewery
this is
yesterday
science, folks.
over in Galveston and not Galveston, sorry, over in Austin. Very different.
A little bit.
They smell the same.
Yes,
Well,
because unlike
almost sound the
Austin,
same.
in Galveston, all of the medical waste that you find on the beach is yours. to keep.
In my defense, they don't have the same amount of syllables either.
and the
So,
water is this color.
and the water is a different color, yes. So, but it was funny because I drank my first glass. They had an amber ale, which is a great amber ale, and I walked up. I said, "Listen, I'm not sure if it's my glass. If there's a leak in the bottom, we need to inspect it or something. But this evaporated really fast outside. He gave me a second one to try it, and the evaporative qualities were almost the same.
Yeah.
Like it didn't last more than like 10 minutes."
So it's sessionable.
You know. And so I went up and I
Yes.
said, well, let me go ahead and try something different. And so I tried their double IPA, which was coming in at about 9%. And I'll be damned if it didn't go down faster than that.
Wow. See.
Like, so I'm just
It
saying,
happens. Yeah, I'm just saying, it
the
happens.
struggle's real. Like, this stuff evaporates pretty quick.
I do like that brewery a lot. When I was at
struggle is
Elite,
real.
I carried them at our bar.
Nice.
Love it. So, want to thank Trey Andrews from EP Carrillo for coming in
thank you
on
guys for having
today's
me.
show. This has really been a pleasure. Real quick as we wrap up, EP Carrillo cigar. If you're a newer or beginning smoker, what's your recommendation?
Definitely the Encore or our New Wave Connecticut,
Okay.
which is oddly enough, it's almost a medium-bodied Connecticut,
Right.
but still smooth and creamy. It doesn't have the sourness that a lot of the older style Connecticut's have. But that would definitely be what I would recommend to start with. But the thing is, with Ernesto's blending, even the Pledge, obviously it's a stronger cigar, but it's still way smoother than you would expect.
You don't get that pepper, like, tongue bite kind of
Right.
like, it's not so spicy that your mouth starts going, that's enough.
There's a difference between full-bodied,
Yes.
right,
And full flavor.
and full-flavored. And with this brand specifically, that comes into almost every cigar. Like that really shines. and people don't realize that there's a difference. They just think full-bodied is like how strong it is, and they don't even think about how full. This to me is a medium to full. But if you looked at it and didn't know a lot about cigars, you would automatically think that this is going to kick you right in your rear end.
Yeah.
Now, what's your favorite in your line? Your favorite EP Carrillo?
So that's a trick question.
Okay.
Are we talking everyday production? Or are we talking limited production?
What's your absolute favorite that you've ever smoked in the line? So it can be limited if that's what it is.
Honestly, it's our cigar that we just launched called the Endure.
Endure.
And that's
True
got a
Cameroon.
10-year-old real Mirfell Cameroon wrapper with Nicaraguan binder filler. I've had a lot of people, and I mean a lot, tell me that might be #1 cigar of the year.
Nice.
And kind of going back to where we were talking earlier, I don't want it to be because it's
You would be like number 3 or something.
It's limited production.
Yeah.
So
right.
how many people are going to be upset if they can't get it?
Can't get it at all, yeah.
Allan, did you have a favorite in the EP Carrillo line?
So current or former?
Either.
So
What do you think the best of the best?
So my 2 favorite, former is the 2018 TAA.
Phenomenal.
That was one of the best cigars I think he's ever made. I still have 4 or 5 of those at house.
Nice.
Current, Pledge of Allegiance. Still another limited edition cigar, but
And honestly, if you can ever go to one of these shops or whatever that has stuff like just anywhere and everywhere, you'll find unicorns.
I love
Our
it. Yeah.
2011 Dark Rituals limited edition.
Ooh.
Yeah,
It's
Dark
still one of the
Ritual.
best cigars I've ever had. I don't like to ever use that one as my favorite cigar because
It's almost
you're never
impossible
going
to
to
find.
find it.
Get it, yeah.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
literally a unicorn.
yeah, the only place I know that even had any was Kansas City. Not Deebles, but
Outlaw?
Outlaw. And
Well, they're worth searching out if you can find them.
For sure.
And even just the stuff that you can find easily, I'd still talk about La Historia.
Oh, yeah.
This Pledge, this Encore, amazing cigars. Thank you so much for
The La Historia,
spending
again,
this time.
it's 11, 12 years old. And
But
the
here's
fact that it has that staying power.
Here's the
it's
thing,
insane.
EPC is one of those brands, and there's a few brands that I know of that I can say this about. If I see anything new, if I see anything I haven't had, I'm snapping it up immediately because it's going to be good.
And we're going to do that right now, but we have to say goodbye. Thank you guys for being on the show. Thank you for listening. It's Smoking and Toasting. Until we meet again, cheers.